Welcome, traveler of the stars. You've arrived at the infinite scientist, where science dreams in the language of the cosmos. Tonight, we drift into the shadowed corners of the mind, where thought dissolves into mystery and awareness melts into night. This is the dark truth about your dreams. If you find beauty in the mysteries of the universe, let your curiosity rest here. Subscribe and dream with us beneath the stars. Far beyond the noise of the day, when the world exhales into stillness, something ancient opens its eyes inside you. It watches without form, breathes without lungs, and listens through the silence of your mind. You call it sleep, but to the universe within, it is the hour of awakening, the moment when the outer world fades and the inner cosmos begins to glow. When you close your eyes, your body becomes an island of stillness. But beneath that calm surface, storms of electricity rise and fall within your brain. Your heart slows, your muscles release, and your senses retreat. Yet your mind does the opposite. It ignites. It begins to paint with memory and emotion, crafting entire worlds out of shadows and sparks. Dreaming is not a pause. It is a hidden continuation of consciousness, a theater of the possible. Each dream you've ever had was born from patterns of energy, weaving between billions of neurons. They dance in bursts, forming images that never existed, yet feel more real than waking life. You are both the dreamer and the dream itself, the observer and the architect. For centuries, humanity wondered what truly happens when we surrender to sleep. Ancient civilizations saw dreams as messages from gods, doorways to other realms. Shamans called them spirit journeys. Poets called them mirrors of the soul. And though modern science stripped away the mythology, it found something just as astonishing. Even in the quietest hours of slumber, your brain burns with light. Every night, as you drift towards sleep, your mind cycles through stages, from light dozing into the deep abyss of non-REM, and finally into the strange electric storm called REM sleep. Here, your eyes flicker beneath your lids, tracing invisible worlds that only you can see. Your brain waves quicken to the tempo of wakefulness, even as your body lies paralyzed, trapped between movement and stillness. In this fragile moment, the boundaries of self dissolve. You become an ocean of sensations with no shore, a traveler in landscapes shaped by thought alone. And yet, there is purpose in this chaos. Dreams are not random flickers. They are the brain's secret rehearsal for survival. Each fragment of narrative, every surreal image, is the mind's way of testing, adapting, healing. When you dream, your brain strengthens emotional memory, replays conflict, grief, and hope, so that waking life can be endured with balance. It's as if the mind, in the theater of sleep, performs tiny experiments on your future self. Scientists once thought dreams were mere byproducts of neural activity, meaningless static. But the more we studied the dreaming brain, the more deliberate it seemed. The limbic system, seat of emotion, glows intensely during REM sleep. The amygdala, where fear is born, comes alive. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, home of reason, quiets. Logic takes a step back. Emotion takes control. In that reversal, we glimpse why dreams feel vivid, yet irrational, familiar, yet impossible. The brain is not lying. It is expressing truths that words cannot hold. There is something almost cosmic about that process. Just as galaxies recycle the remnants of dead stars to give birth to new ones, your mind takes the fragments of the day, the forgotten faces, the half-heard words, the invisible anxieties, and collapses them into new constellations of meaning. A dream is the Big Bang of your personal universe, expanding each night from the dust of experience. Perhaps that is why dreams feel larger than life, filled with impossible architectures, endless stairways, skies that bend like mirrors. They are born from the same law that governs the cosmos: creation through chaos. energy finding form, light emerging from darkness, but there is a darker truth that sleep hides behind its beauty. When you dream, you are not entirely alone. Your subconscious, that silent observer that never sleeps or is always watching. It collects your fears, your desires, the secrets you don't say aloud. It builds your dreams from them. In this way, the self you meet in your dreams may not be you as you know yourself, but the you that you hide, the one who still remembers what you've chosen to forget. It is in dreams that we confront what daylight denies. A long-lost face, a road that leads nowhere, a feeling that something has gone missing. These are not illusions. They are signals from the hidden architecture of your psyche, reminding you that even in silence the mind speaks. And yet when morning comes, most of it vanishes. The memory of the dream fades almost instantly, dissolving like mist under the sun. Why does the brain erase its own stories? Perhaps because they are meant not to be remembered but felt. The dream leaves an emotional fingerprint, invisible but transformative, shaping the day that follows, the choices you make, the thoughts you never question. In that way, dreams are like gravity. You can't see them, but they pull at you constantly, bending the path of your waking life every night. When your eyes grow heavy and your thoughts blur, remember this: something beyond comprehension awakens inside you. A consciousness without body, a witness beyond reason. The night opens its eyes, and through you, it begins to dream. As the first chapter closes, the question deepens. If dreams are born from the machinery of the mind, then where does that machinery find its inspiration? Does it create from within? Or does it tap into something vaster, a universal field of thought that all dreamers share? The answer lies further inward, in a place where the mind becomes an ocean and memory becomes its tide. When sleep deepens and the outer world dissolves, your consciousness drifts toward a quieter gravity, a current that pulls you beneath the surface of thought. Down here, beneath reason and memory, lies an ocean vast enough to drown entire lifetimes. Scientists call it the subconscious. Poets call it the soul's shadow. But perhaps it is something older, an ancient sea within the brain, where every dream begins as a ripple on invisible water. Your waking mind is like the surface of a lake, reflective, bright, busy with wind and motion. Every sound, every task, every conversation becomes a wave upon it. But as you surrender to sleep, that surface stills. The winds of consciousness fade, and slowly your awareness begins to sink. It doesn't vanish, it descends. The deeper you fall, the quieter it becomes, until at last you reach the silent depths, where thought is not spoken but felt, and meaning rises not from language but from emotion. In that descent, something remarkable happens. The mind stops separating what is real from what is remembered. Images, sensations, and half-buried memories drift together like schools of luminous fish. A childhood voice mingles with the sound of the ocean. A forgotten scent becomes a face. A door that never existed opens into a city that feels like home. This is the architecture of the dreaming mind. Fluid, borderless, ancient. For decades, scientists have tried to chart this inner sea, to measure its tides. Electrodes placed on sleeping scalps reveal the slow, rhythmic pulses of deep sleep. Waves of electricity sweeping across the brain like moonlight on water. These delta waves move with a serenity unmatched by waking thought, each one signaling the brain's surrender to restoration. And yet even here, deep beneath awareness, fragments of dreaming persist. Like coral reefs hidden beneath the dark, imagination continues to grow. In this state, your body repairs itself. Cells regenerate. The immune system recalibrates. But your mind is not idle. It's orchestrating an invisible symphony, sorting, consolidating, and weaving. Every memory you form during the day floats now in fragile electric traces, Sleep gathers them, tests them, and decides which ones to keep and which to let fade. The subconscious is both ocean and editor. It doesn't just record, it refines, and yet this ocean of thought is not made of memories alone. It carries something deeper, the raw energy of emotion. Studies show that dreams often echo our strongest feelings, not our clearest events. Fear, desire, guilt, wonder. These currents run beneath every image, shaping their flow. If you dream of falling, it is not the fall itself that matters, but the feeling of surrender. If you dream of flight, it's not the sky that's real, but the relief of freedom. Emotion gives buoyancy to imagination, just as salt gives weight to the sea. What we call the unconscious might not be a hidden part of the mind at all, but its truest form. During the day, we live at the surface, fragmented by distractions, confined by rules and reason. But in sleep, we return to the place where thought first emerged, a primordial mental ocean that existed long before language or identity. Every night we dissolve back into it as rivers return to the sea. When you dream, your brain doesn't merely replay the day, it rewrites it. Neurons fire in patterns that strengthen certain connections and weaken others, sculpting the architecture of your mind. This process, known as memory consolidation, is like the tide reshaping the shore. It decides what will remain in the light of tomorrow and what will sink forever into the deep. Consider this. The same brain regions that dream also awaken creativity. The hippocampus and amygdala, centers of memory and emotion, interact in ways that are rarely possible while awake. Freed from logic, they begin to fuse ideas, to build bridges between unconnected thoughts. That is why so many artists, scientists, and philosophers have found inspiration in dreams. Paul McCartney dreamed the melody of Yesterday. The chemist Kekulé saw the structure of the benzene molecule in a vision of a serpent devouring its tail. Even Einstein spoke of thought experiments that felt more like lucid dreams than calculations. The ocean of the mind is not chaos. It's creation without constraint. But the same sea that births beauty also hides darkness. Within these depths swim the remnants of fear and loss, fragments that surface as nightmares. These are not punishments, but purges. The brain replays what hurts it, reshaping the memory so it can be endured. Nightmares are emotional rehearsals, survival drills performed by the subconscious. Through them, the mind prepares the heart for storms yet to come. Dream research suggests that people who process trauma often dream more vividly. Their minds dive deeper, searching the ocean floor for meaning in the wreckage. This is the dark truth beneath the beauty of dreaming. Every vision has a purpose, even the painful ones. The mind would rather terrify you in sleep than let you shatter in waking life. And perhaps, in this endless sea, we are not as separate as we think. Some scientists have proposed that the brain's patterns of dreaming resonate with the same mathematical structures found in nature. Fractals, spirals, waves. If true, it means our most private visions follow the same geometry that governs storms, galaxies, and tides. The universe itself may be dreaming through us, each human mind a droplet in a cosmic ocean of consciousness. When you awake, it all evaporates. The dream fades, the tide recedes, and you are left standing on the shore of morning. A little changed, though you cannot say how. You may remember only fragments, a sound, a color, a feeling you can't name, but somewhere inside you the deep remembers. The dream has already done its work. We are all swimmers in this hidden ocean. Every night we sink, we drift, and we rise again. Each dream a tide, each morning a rebirth, and as you prepare to leave this chapter, imagine yourself still floating there, out between worlds, between thoughts, where the surface of sleep ripples softly above you, and the unknown waits below. Because in that vast stillness, the next mystery stirs. If dreams are oceans, then what sparks the light that glows beneath their surface? That question waits quietly in the distance, where sparks of memory ignite the sleeping mind. There is a strange kind of light that lives within you, one that doesn't come from fire or sun, but from the whisper of atoms and the electricity of thought. When you dream, this light awakens. It moves through your brain like silent lightning, illuminating entire worlds that exist nowhere else. To the scientists who study it, this light is data, measurable, recordable, pulsing in waves across sleeping neurons. But to the dreamer, it feels like something sacred, the flicker of consciousness itself, glowing in the dark. Every human being carries this sleeping star inside them, a tiny universe of energy contained within a handful of grey matter. During the day, that energy flows outward, focused on the external world, work, words, movement, survival. But when night falls, the current reverses. The body grows still and the mind turns inward. Circuits of electricity begin to hum softly between billions of neurons, sparking patterns that mirror the constellations above. The dream begins not with story, but with light. When scientists first looked at the brain during REM sleep, they were astonished. Instead of quiet rest, they found storms. Bright electrical surges flashing across the cortex, faster and more chaotic than waking life. These surges, called PGO waves, ripple from the brainstem to the visual centers, igniting images that the conscious mind never commands. They are the sparks of the sleeping star, spontaneous bursts of creation that form the first glimmers of a dream. It is difficult to imagine what it feels like from the inside, for these flashes are not seen but felt. They are thoughts before language, light before form. Your brain, cut off from external sight, begins to invent its own reality. It paints with light that no eye can see, shapes that bend logic, colors that have no names. In that moment, you are both the painter and the canvas. This inner fire is not random. It follows patterns shaped by the chemistry of emotion and memory. Neurotransmitters like acetylcholine surge, fueling vivid images, while serotonin and norepinephrine fade, silencing logic and restraint. It's a deliberate rewiring, a biological invitation to imagine. As rational walls dissolve, the subconscious steps forward, free to explore the impossible. That is why dreams feel so alive. They are lit from within by the very energy that powers thought itself. But what does this light mean? To science, it is the signature of life. Neurons firing, synapses communicating. Yet beyond biology lies symbolism. In nearly every culture, light represents awareness, spirit, and rebirth. Perhaps the reason we dream in flashes and glows is because consciousness, at its essence, is a luminous phenomenon. When you dream, you are not escaping the world, you are entering the raw energy that makes the world possible. Some researchers have suggested that this electric activity might even help shape the architecture of consciousness itself. Just as stars fuse hydrogen into heavier elements, the sleeping brain may fuse emotion and memory into meaning. Every spark of electricity that travels across a neuron leaves a trace, a strengthened connection, a new possibility of thought. Your dreams may be the forge where the self is constantly being rebuilt. It is tempting to think of this process as mechanical, but there is something eerily poetic about it. Imagine billions of neurons firing in perfect chaos, each one a sun blazing in the dark. Their light doesn't reach space, but it fills an inner cosmos, a universe of awareness that belongs to you alone. And just as astronomers map distant galaxies by their radiation, neuroscientists map the dreaming mind through its electrical constellations. Every REM burst, every wave, every pulse is a signal from the depths of being. There is also a strange symmetry between dreaming and the cosmos. Both are born from energy condensed into form. Both move through cycles of birth, death, and renewal. Stars burn until they collapse, scattering their essence to create new worlds. Dreams flare and fade, leaving fragments that seed future thoughts. When you close your eyes, the same laws that govern galaxies unfold within you. Energy transforming into imagination, chaos becoming order. Perhaps this is why dreams feel infinite even though they occur within a single skull. The scale of experience inside a dream can feel larger than the universe itself. A single spark of emotion can expand into entire narratives, endless skies, ancient memories. What you are witnessing is the brain's ability to simulate infinity, to take finite neurons and generate boundless possibility. The sleeping star burns brighter than we ever realized. There's a haunting beauty in the fact that every night, as you lie still, your mind rehearses creation. The flicker of an impulse becomes a face. A whisper of fear becomes a city. The electricity in your head becomes a story no one else will ever see. The same energy that lets you breathe and move and think is also the fire that writes your dreams. In a sense, you are made of the same thing as lightning, a living current forever finding new shapes to inhabit. But what happens when this inner fire misfires? Sometimes, when the circuitry of sleep is disturbed, the sparks of the sleeping star can pierce the veil of consciousness. This is what happens in lucid dreams, moments when the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming. Brain scans show that during lucidity, areas linked to self-awareness flicker awake, even while the rest of the mind remains asleep. The result is paradox, a conscious spark inside unconsciousness, awareness floating in darkness. For a brief instant, you become the observer of your own creation. You can move through the landscapes of your mind as though walking through light, bending it, shaping it, feeling its warmth. Some find peace there, others awe. It is the closest thing we have to touching the source of our own existence, to realizing that the same fire that burns in the stars burns quietly inside the human skull. When morning comes, that light fades again into ordinary thought. The sleeping star closes its eyes and the waking mind resumes its work. But something remains. A subtle afterglow like the echo of starlight traveling across years. You carry it unknowingly in your emotions, in your sudden ideas, in the quiet ways you change. Dreams are not shadows of reality. They are sparks of it. They remind us that even in darkness, the universe within us never truly sleeps. It hums, it glows, it imagines. And as you drift toward the next horizon of thought, the question grows more mysterious. Who or what is the architect behind this inner illumination? What unseen hand arranges these sparks into worlds, these flashes into stories? The answer waits beyond the shimmer, in the silent creator that builds entire universes behind closed eyes. There is a presence within your mind that remains unseen, yet orchestrates every detail of your dreams. It is subtle, quiet, and absolute, an architect who builds entire worlds from whispers, from shadows, from fragments of memory. When you dream, you are not wandering aimlessly. You are walking the hallways of a structure designed with infinite care, a place where every curve, every light, every sound has been chosen by an intelligence you do not consciously command. This architect is not separate from you. It is the part of your mind that observes and creates at once. The subconscious, made conscious only in sleep. During the day, it hides behind reason and routine, content to work in the shadows, keeping memories in order, emotions in check, and experiences in their proper place. But at night, when the body lies still and the conscious mind retreats, it begins its work. It builds landscapes that defy logic, constructs characters that exist only to confront your fears or guide your understanding, and weaves narratives that feel impossibly real yet vanish by morning. Dreams are not random. They may feel chaotic, illogical, or strange, but every image, every twist, every encounter has purpose. Neuroscientists have discovered that the brain organizes sensory input, emotional residue, and memory fragments into patterns during sleep. This organization happens in a part of the brain called the hippocampus, the librarian of the mind, and in the cortex, where imagination flows freely. But the librarian is only part of the story. The true artist is the architect, arranging these fragments into structures that can teach, heal, or warn. It is tempting to imagine this architect as mechanical, a neural algorithm assembling information without intent. But the experience of dreaming suggests something deeper. There is intentionality in the landscapes, a rhythm in the unfolding of events, a logic that feels emotional rather than intellectual. In a dream, a staircase may spiral endlessly, yet you sense the story it tells. A stranger's face may haunt you, yet you feel its meaning before you can name it. The architect works in symbolism, constructing bridges between thought, memory, and feeling that the conscious mind could never imagine. Consider the paradox. The brain, a physical organ bound by neurons and chemistry, can generate worlds richer than reality. Entire cities, oceans, forests, and skies appear in the mind, complete with history, depth, and texture. In some dreams, hours pass, in what is only minutes in reality. The architect bends time itself, shaping experience into forms that obey no earthly rules. And yet it is not chaos. Even in the most surreal dreams, there is coherence, a thread that ties one image to the next, one emotion to the next, like an invisible hand guiding the narrative. This hand has been at work for millennia. Humans have dreamt in this way since the beginning of our species. Anthropologists have found evidence that early humans interpreted dreams as guidance from ancestors, from spirits, from forces they could not see. They may not have understood the science, but they understood the effect. Dreams shape perception, influence decisions, and illuminate truths that waking thought cannot reach. The architect has always been there, quietly designing lessons in shadowed corridors. There is also a profound emotional function to this construction. Nightmares, for instance, are not random terrors. The architect uses fear as a tool, presenting threats that mimic waking anxieties so the mind can rehearse responses. By simulating danger in the safe environment of sleep, it strengthens emotional resilience. Similarly, dreams of joy, triumph, or love reinforce bonds, foster creativity, and expand empathy. Each illusion has its purpose, a quiet guidance from a builder who knows the map of your inner universe. Lucid dreaming reveals the architect most clearly. When the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming, they glimpse the scaffolding behind the images, the framework that holds the world together. Some learn to manipulate it, bending landscapes, summoning people, flying through impossible skies. But even then, the architect does not disappear. It remains as subtle guidance, gently enforcing the logic of emotion, the cohesion of experience. You may control the dream, but the dream controls you in return, reminding you of limits, truths, and the deeper structure of your mind. The architect also works across nights unseen yet persistent. Dreams are rarely isolated events. They are connected through themes, symbols, and emotional arcs. A figure in one dream may reappear in another, a sound may echo across weeks, a feeling may persist until it is resolved. This continuity suggests a long-term design, an inner narrative that spans beyond a single night. The architect is patient, deliberate, and infinitely creative, building not just moments, but the experience of the self itself. It is in this light that we understand the true nature of dreaming. It is not escape, but creation. The mind does not simply replay the day or recycle memories. It constructs a living simulation of consciousness, allowing you to inhabit realities that can teach, transform, and even heal. The architect is the silent teacher, and the dream is its lesson. Every surreal scene, every emotional surge, every impossible journey is a carefully placed element in the ongoing education of your mind. Perhaps this is why dreams feel so vivid and unforgettable. They are not fragments, they are masterpieces. Your mind, under the guidance of its hidden architect, sculpts a reality so convincing that waking logic cannot replicate it. And yet by morning it all seems ephemeral, a faint memory of something grand, a whisper of knowledge that has already reshaped you in ways you cannot name, even in the smallest dreams. The architect leaves traces of wonder, a glowing tree in a forgotten forest, a corridor of endless mirrors, the fleeting touch of a hand that never existed in waking life. These are not random tricks of chemistry. They are signs of an intelligence at work, subtle yet profound. The architect speaks in the language of symbols, and the dreamer listens with the heart rather than the mind. As this chapter draws to a close, one truth remains clear. Every dream, no matter how strange or terrifying, is a product of careful design. Your mind is a city built by a master you cannot see. The illusions you wander through are not accidental. They are bridges to understanding, corridors to insight, and sometimes even windows to the infinite. The architect waits behind the veil, invisible yet indispensable, silently shaping the landscapes of your inner universe, and as sleep deepens further, the next revelation stirs. The shadows that remember your name. The parts of yourself you thought lost, patiently awaiting their turn to awaken in the theatre of your dreams. Within the quiet theatre of sleep, something stirs that does not belong to the conscious mind. It moves like a subtle echo, a presence that knows you better than you know yourself. These are the shadows, not dark in the sense of evil, but hidden, unspoken, persistent. They are the fragments of memory, of emotion, of self that you have forgotten or never fully acknowledged. When you dream, they awaken, rising from the depths of the subconscious to speak in a language older than thought. You may not recognize them at first. A face long buried in memory, a feeling you have tried to ignore, a phrase half heard in childhood. These shadows drift into your dreams, shaping landscapes, altering events, guiding you toward truths your waking mind avoids. They remember your name not because they are sentient, but because they are pieces of you, fragments that persist despite time, loss, or denial. They are the quiet custodians of your inner life, witnesses to every choice, every fear, every longing you have ever felt. In the science of dreaming, this phenomenon is both fascinating and mysterious. Studies of the brain show that during REM sleep, regions associated with long-term memory and emotional processing become highly active. The hippocampus retrieves fragments of experience, while the amygdala highlights what matters most emotionally. These pieces are not random. They are prioritized by significance, by the intensity of feeling, by unresolved tension. The shadows that appear in dreams are often the overlooked or repressed parts of our consciousness, waiting for recognition, rehearsal, or release. Dreams often give these shadows form. A stranger in a dark corridor may be a person you have not thought of for decades, yet the emotions surrounding them feel immediate. A shadowy figure at the edge of a forest might embody a fear you have never named, a regret that quietly shapes your choices. In the surreal logic of dreams, the shadows speak plainly through symbol and story. They are teachers, warnings, reminders, often terrifying, often beautiful, always truthful. What makes this so profound is that these shadows are not confined to the events of the day. They traverse time. They carry the weight of childhood, adolescence, and years that may feel forgotten. A single dream can summon a fragment from 20 years past, blending it with present circumstance and even hinting at potential futures. In this way, The dreaming mind becomes a bridge across the timeline of your life, connecting moments that reason cannot link. The shadows are the threads, and the dream is the loom. Psychologists suggest that this mechanism is essential for emotional integration. By confronting these shadows in dreams, the mind processes unresolved conflicts, unspoken desires, and lingering grief. Fear, shame, longing, all are given voice, often dramatized through narrative or imagery. A nightmare is not punishment, it is rehearsal. The mind uses these shadowed forms to practice resilience, to rehearse courage, to experience resolution in a safe internal theater. The dreamer emerges changed, subtly recalibrated, emotionally more capable of facing the waking world. There is an intimacy to this process that cannot be overstated. When a shadow appears in your dream, it is interacting with the deepest parts of your being, the unconscious self that shapes your personality, guides your decisions, and interprets the world. To face a shadow is to recognize a truth about yourself that is rarely acknowledged. The self is never fully transparent, even to the one who inhabits it. The dream acts as a mirror, reflecting the contours of identity, sometimes beautiful, sometimes frightening, always essential. In many traditions, shadows are seen as teachers or guides. Jungian psychology calls them the parts of the psyche that remain hidden, urging integration rather than repression. In dreams, the shadow may manifest as a person, a place, a shape, or even a sensation. Its purpose is not arbitrary. It emerges when the mind senses that acknowledgement or reconciliation is needed. Ignoring it in waking life allows it to dominate from below, influencing thoughts and actions unconsciously. In sleep, the mind brings it forward, offering the chance to meet it directly. These shadowed figures are often subtle. They may not speak, may not act in ways that are clear. Their power lies in recognition, in the emotional truth they carry. When you awaken, fragments of their presence linger. A lingering unease, a sudden clarity, an inexplicable tenderness. The conscious mind may dismiss it as imagination, yet the emotional resonance persists. These shadows are persistent because they are fundamental to your being. They know your fears, your hopes, your patterns, your desires. They know your name because they are as much you as the face you see in the mirror. Sometimes shadows return night after night, recurring in different forms or narratives. They may evolve, taking on new shapes as the mind adapts, reflecting your growth or unresolved conflicts. The repetition is not random. It is the mind's way of highlighting what requires attention. Recurring dreams often bring the same lesson in different guises, using metaphor to guide you toward understanding or acceptance. In this way, the shadows are patient, tireless, and profoundly intelligent, guardians of the mind's deeper truths. And yet not all shadows are easily confronted. Some are frightening, chaotic, or incomprehensible. Some carry grief or trauma too heavy to face in daylight. Dreams can transform these into visions of intensity. Monsters, storms, impossible landscapes. But even here, there is intention. The mind presents the shadow in a form that can be engaged safely, that can be felt and processed, that can be integrated into the self. Over time, the repetition of these encounters can lead to healing, insight, and resilience. The dark truth of your dreams is that you are never alone. Even in sleep, even in what feels like solitude, the shadows wait. They remember every slight, every joy, every heartbreak. They are the witnesses to your life's inner narrative. They are the quiet custodians of memory, the hidden architects of emotion, the subtle instructors of your unconscious self. To dream is to encounter them, to navigate their presence, to allow the mind to reconcile what waking life leaves unresolved. And as this chapter fades, you are left with the understanding that the mind is never silent, the self never dormant. The shadows are always near, waiting patiently, carrying the weight of memory, the pulse of emotion, and the knowledge that even in darkness you are known. The next mystery beckons, the bending of time itself within these dreams, where seconds stretch into infinity and moments fold into each other, whispering the secrets of existence. Time, the invisible heartbeat of the universe, never truly stops. It ticks through galaxies and atoms alike, pulling everything forward in its endless current. Yet when we close our eyes and surrender to sleep, something strange happens. The river of time, so steady and unstoppable by day, begins to dissolve. Seconds lose their rhythm. Minutes forget their order. Hours stretch, collapse, and vanish entirely. Inside the dream, time bends to emotion, not to physics. A lifetime can pass between two breaths. A whole story can unfold in the space of a heartbeat. It is one of the most extraordinary illusions of the mind that while your body sleeps for minutes, your consciousness can wander through what feels like years. Scientists studying this phenomenon call it temporal distortion, a trick played by the dreaming brain. When we dream, the regions that track linear time, particularly parts of the prefrontal cortex, grow quiet, while emotional and visual centers surge with energy. In this altered balance, the brain no longer measures moments by the clock, but by intensity, meaning, and emotion. If time in waking life is a sequence of numbers, then time in dreams is a tide of feeling. A single instant of fear can stretch into an eternity. A moment of joy can last as long as you wish to stay there. The mind, freed from the anchors of clocks and schedules, begins to sculpt time as if it were clay. Each thought becomes an hour, each heartbeat a story. In dreams, time is not counted. It is felt. Imagine yourself walking through a forest at night. The stars shimmer above, yet they do not move. The wind hums in your ears, but it carries no sense of duration. You wander for what feels like forever, or perhaps only seconds. The forest does not care which is true, and neither does your mind. For in the dream world, what matters is not how long something takes, but how deeply it is experienced. This strange fluidity of time reveals something profound about the way consciousness perceives reality. The human brain does not actually sense time directly. It reconstructs it, assembling experience into a flowing narrative. In wakefulness, external cues, daylight, sound, movement, keep that reconstruction consistent. In sleep, those cues vanish. The brain becomes its own clock, driven by emotion rather than chronology. And so, a dream can suspend a single glance across what feels like hours or compress entire adventures into a heartbeat. Some neuroscientists have found ways to measure dream time. In studies using lucid dreamers, those who realize they are dreaming, subjects were asked to perform simple tasks like counting to 10 or moving their eyes in rhythm. Even within their dreams, their internal timing was close to real time. Yet, their experience of narrative time, the story of the dream, could feel infinitely longer. This means that while the biological clock still beats steadily, the story clock of consciousness runs wild. It stretches, folds, and multiplies moments according to emotional weight, not temporal law. Dreaming, then, is not bound by the arrow of time. It is closer to the way memory works. When you recall the past, you can jump years in a second. You can linger in a childhood afternoon for as long as you wish. Memory does not obey time, it curates it. Dreams seem to do the same, weaving emotion and recollection together in sequences that defy logic, but resonate deeply with meaning. It is as if your brain, when left to itself, reclaims time as art. This bending of time has deeper implications. It suggests that our sense of duration, even in waking life, may be more subjective than we realize. When we are joyful, time flies. When we are anxious, it crawls. When we are deeply focused, it vanishes altogether. The dream state is merely the extreme form of this truth. Time is not fixed. It is a feeling, and in that realization lies something profoundly human. For in the stillness of the night, when time dissolves, you meet the essence of existence without the pressure of minutes or the boundaries of hours. You encounter a space where everything simply is, not before, not after, only now. It is what mystics and physicists alike have tried to describe in different languages, a timeless state where consciousness floats in pure being. Some researchers suggest that the distortion of time in dreams serves a purpose. It may allow the mind to process vast amounts of information in compressed real time. By stretching a few seconds into what feels like hours, the brain can explore emotional scenarios, test reactions, and integrate experiences efficiently. In this way, dream time becomes a psychological theater for rehearsal, one that does not waste precious biological hours. But beyond function lies mystery. Why does it feel so real? Why can a dream's eternity evoke emotions just as powerful as those in waking life? Perhaps because, deep down, consciousness itself may not be tied to time as we know it. Our awareness may experience time only through the limits of the body and the brain, both of which rest during sleep. When their control loosens, perhaps we glimpse consciousness as it truly is, fluid, non-linear, boundless. The ancients often believed dreams were journeys of the soul, voyages through realms unchained by the ticking of the physical world. Today, science sees the same phenomenon through different eyes, but the awe remains the same. To dream is to slip through the cracks of time, to witness how elastic reality can become when freed from its ordinary flow. And maybe that is why waking from a powerful dream feels like returning from somewhere far away. You open your eyes, see the same ceiling, hear the same morning sounds. Yet something inside you insists you've lived through lifetimes in the dark. That feeling is not illusion. It is memory carved in emotional stone, a record of a journey through a world where time dared to sleep. When you next close your eyes, consider this. The seconds that pass on the clock are real, but the moments that bloom behind them are infinite. You may drift for an hour, but within that hour, universes unfold. In the dream, time kneels, waiting for your heart to decide how long forever should last. And as this realization fades, another mystery quietly unfolds. The way dreams pull light from darkness, transforming chaos into stories that shimmer with meaning. The next question beckons softly in the distance. What happens when your dreams begin to dream of you? There is a moment somewhere deep in the night when the balance shifts. You are no longer the dreamer shaping the dreamer. The dream begins to shape you. Your will softens, your identity blurs, and the border between imagination and self dissolves into something unrecognizable. You are both creator and creation, author and character, awareness and echo. The dream, once your illusion, now looks back. It begins subtly. You might find yourself standing in a place you've never seen before, yet it feels familiar. You might speak with a stranger who somehow knows everything about you. Or you may find that the world around you reacts to your thoughts before you even think them. These are the first signs that the dream has become self-aware, not in consciousness, but in reflection. The fragments of your mind have assembled a world so complete that it starts to question its maker, you. To scientists, this phenomenon lies within the intricate architecture of self-perception. During REM sleep, the prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for logic and self-reflection, dims, while the visual and emotional centers blaze with activity. The result is a paradox, a state of vivid creation without control. The brain generates reality with cinematic precision, but without the anchor of conscious authorship. The dream gains autonomy. It writes itself, and yet within that autonomy lies something hauntingly familiar. Because every face you meet, every word spoken, every gesture exchanged is you, refracted, reassembled, redistributed through the theater of the subconscious. The dream begins to dream you, not because it has a mind of its own, but because your mind is larger than you realize. It can simulate infinite selves, infinite possibilities, all within the silence of a single night. Consider the strange moments when you feel observed within a dream. when a figure seems to watch you, to test you, or to guide you. Some cultures call these dream guardians. Others call them projections of the soul. Neuroscience calls them personifications of the observing self, the small but constant spark of awareness that lingers even in the deepest unconscious. They are the witnesses of your inner world, the parts of you that refuse to sleep completely. The unsettling part comes when they act beyond expectation. When a dream character says something you did not anticipate, or when they reveal knowledge you have never consciously encountered. In those moments, the dream feels alive. It feels as if something within you knows more than you do, as if the subconscious is not a vault, but a vast mind of its own, containing truths and patterns your waking thoughts cannot access. Lucid dreamers often describe this experience with awe. When they become aware they are dreaming, they can alter the dream, change the scenery, command flight, reshape the impossible. But as they do, the dream sometimes resists. It pushes back. The world they build begins to behave unpredictably, as if preserving its integrity. It refuses to be broken easily, as if whispering, "I exist too." This subtle defiance is the mind protecting the sanctity of its creation. For in its depths, the subconscious does not see itself as less real than the waking world. It is simply another realm of existence, built from thought instead of matter. Philosophically, this raises an ancient question. What if consciousness itself is recursive? What if the dream dreaming you is part of a greater pattern, a universe dreaming of itself? In the same way that a cell in your body does not know it belongs to you, perhaps you do not fully realize that you belong to something greater that is also conscious, also imagining, also dreaming. Every thought you have could be a spark within a larger mind, just as your dreams are sparks within yours. When you dream, the line between observer and observed vanishes. You become the landscape, the characters, the narrative, the emotion, everything. You are the wind moving the leaves, the fear behind the door, the light rising from the horizon. This multiplicity is not illusion. It is the most authentic reflection of what consciousness is. In waking life, we limit ourselves to a single I. In dreams, the boundaries fall away and we become the chorus. Infinite perspectives contained within one awareness. Science observes this through the synchronization of neural networks. In REM sleep, regions of the brain that usually operate independently begin to communicate intensely. The visual cortex, the limbic system, the hippocampus, all dance together, merging sensation, memory, and emotion into one seamless experience. The result is not chaos, but creativity, a world so rich and interconnected that it generates itself in real time. The dream dreams the dreamer, who in turn sustains the dream. To understand this cycle is to glimpse the nature of consciousness itself. The mind is not a static machine. It is a self-referential field, aware of its own awareness. Dreams reveal this in their quietest moments. When you realize that every sound you hear, every breath of wind, every stranger's voice originates from within you. The dream knows your heartbeat, your fears, your secrets, because it is you. When the dream dreams you, it reminds you that the self is not a point, but a vast ocean, whose waves create and dissolve endlessly. And yet there is something profoundly emotional in this realization. The dream dreaming you feels intimate, almost divine. It shows you that your inner world is not passive, but alive. That there is intelligence, depth, and compassion in the unseen parts of your mind. The subconscious is not a shadow to be feared. It is a cosmic mirror showing you how the universe might perceive itself. Infinite, ever creating, ever reflecting. When you awaken, the memory lingers. You recall faces that were not yours, yet felt known. You recall a landscape that seemed eternal, yet vanished in an instant. You recall a presence, subtle, patient, that seemed to be watching from the edges of the dream. And as you breathe in the first light of morning, you realize that perhaps you have not left the dream entirely. Perhaps the dream continues, and this world is just another layer, another version of awareness imagining itself real. That thought lingers like a whisper as you move through your day, that the dreamer is never truly separate from the dream. That perhaps consciousness is the dream of existence itself, a cosmic cycle where awareness imagines form, and form remembers awareness, and so, as night returns and your eyes begin to close again, you wonder quietly, when you drift back into the depths, will you dream of the universe, or will the universe dream of you? The next story waits in the stillness beyond thought, where dreams evolve into symbols, and the hidden language of the mind begins to speak. When the dream fades, what remains is a faint residue, a symbol, an image, a feeling you cannot name, a staircase that leads nowhere, a door that will not open, a voice calling your name from a place you've never been. These are not random. They are messages written in the secret alphabet of the hidden mind. Dreams do not speak in words. They speak in shapes, in emotions, in metaphors that only your subconscious can truly understand. To dream is to enter a conversation not between you and the world, but between you and yourself. The human mind is both poet and scientist. By day, it speaks through logic and language. By night, it turns to imagery and rhythm. In dreams, it sheds the need for grammar or reason. Instead, it communicates through the architecture of meaning, symbols that grow out of memory, emotion, and instinct. The ocean might stand for vastness or fear. A bird might mean freedom or escape. A locked door, a truth you're not ready to face. Yet these meanings are never universal. The hidden mind speaks in dialects as unique as fingerprints. In the early days of psychology, Sigmund Freud believed that dreams were disguised expressions of our suppressed desires. His student, Carl Jung, expanded this idea, suggesting that dreams draw from a deeper collective reservoir, a shared symbolic language that links all human minds. In Jung's vision, the dream was not only personal, but cosmic, using images that transcend culture and time. The mother, the shadow, the journey, the rebirth. These archetypes appear across civilizations, whispering in myths, in stories, in the silent theater of sleep. Science, of course, takes a different path, but it circles the same mystery. Modern neuroscience tells us that during REM sleep, the brain's visual and emotional regions ignite, while logical centers quiet down. The result is a flood of imagery without censorship. The mind begins to translate emotion into form. Anger becomes fire. Anxiety becomes pursuit. Joy becomes light. The hidden mind, unable to use language, constructs meaning through metaphor, and though we may not understand its syntax, we feel it. This emotional translation is not just poetic, it's functional. It allows the brain to process the unprocessed, to give shape to emotions that have no words. When something remains unresolved, the hidden mind writes it into a dream so it can be seen, felt, and slowly integrated. It is the psyche's way of turning confusion into story, pain into symbol, fear into image. Each night, your brain becomes both the author and the interpreter of your inner truth. But here lies the paradox. The language of dreams can never be fully decoded. Every attempt to translate it into rational meaning loses something essential, its soul. The hidden mind is not trying to tell you something in the way a person would. It's trying to show you something beyond words. Its symbols are multidimensional, layered with personal history, emotional tone, and collective resonance. A house is never just a house. It might be your body, your life, your memories, or your family. The meaning shifts each night depending on where you are in your journey. When people keep dream journals, something fascinating happens. Over time, patterns emerge, recurring places, objects, or people that seem to evolve. A river that once raged with storm becomes calm. A dark room fills with light. The language of the hidden mind reveals its continuity. It is not random, but but a living system of communication adjusting as you change. Dreams become a kind of mirror, not of your surface self, but of the self beneath, the one that exists beyond fear, habit, and time. Even in ancient civilizations this was understood. The Egyptians believed dreams were messages from the gods. The Greeks saw them as reflections of moral truth. In indigenous traditions across the world, dreams are seen as living landscapes, real realms where spirit and memory converse. Though science explains the mechanisms, it does not diminish the mystery. The hidden mind may be biological, but its poetry feels eternal. Think of it this way. Every night your mind writes a story in a language it invented for you alone. It draws from every sound you've heard, every color you've seen, every heartbeat you've felt. It borrows from your memories, rearranges them and hands them back as metaphors. These images do not obey rules because emotion has no grammar. The language of the hidden mind is not made to be translated. It's made to be experienced. And yet, when you awaken, the message fades. Like ink dissolving in water, the symbols scatter the moment you open your eyes. This is the mind's way of protecting the sacred conversation. Dreams are meant to whisper, not shout. The hidden mind trusts that some truths can only be known through feeling, so it lets them slip away, leaving behind only the soft echo of what they meant. There is also a subtle kindness in this forgetting. Not every message is meant for daylight. Some truths are too vast, too intimate to carry consciously. They belong to the twilight realm, to be felt, absorbed, and allowed to guide gently from beneath awareness. The hidden mind does not need to be seen to be wise. It shapes you quietly, the way gravity shapes the orbit of planets, and perhaps that is the deeper beauty of dreaming. It reminds us that understanding is not the only form of knowing. There are languages that bypass thought entirely, so the language of intuition, of emotion, of image. When you wake from a dream that feels important, it's not the details that matter most. It's the lingering feeling, the vibration left behind. That feeling is the message. If consciousness is the sun that illuminates the day, then the hidden mind is the moon, reflecting the light in softer tones, showing what daylight conceals. In dreams, the moonlight of the psyche reveals paths unseen by waking eyes. It is where the unseen self speaks, where emotions become landscapes, and truth disguises itself as metaphor. So the next time you dream of something strange, when a collapsing bridge, a silent child, a burning sky, do not rush to interpret it as good or bad. Instead, listen. Feel what it evokes. The hidden mind is not speaking in riddles. It is singing in symbols. And the melody, though quiet, carries everything you need to know about who you are and what you are becoming. Because in the end, dreams are not puzzles to be solved. They are conversations with the infinite part of yourself. The part that knows where you've been, where you're going, and why you must sometimes wander through darkness to rediscover the light. And as this understanding deepens, another truth begins to emerge, that even when the body sleeps and the world falls away, consciousness continues to travel. It journeys through the unseen, exploring realities that shimmer beyond the edge of perception. There is a moment each night when your awareness slips between worlds, not fully awake, not fully asleep, a fragile crossing where reality loosens its grip. You do not fall into sleep. You travel into it. The mind, untethered from the senses, begins to drift through dimensions of thought and memory. You are no longer a body on a bed, but a traveler, passing through unseen thresholds where the known and the unknown touch. Every dream begins here, in the borderlands between waking and the deep unconscious. Scientists call it the hypnagogic state, a liminal phase where flashes of imagery, voices, and sensations blur together. To experience it consciously is to witness the creation of worlds. In these fleeting seconds, the mind assembles fragments of reality and transforms them into portals. The laws of physics dissolve. The self loses its boundaries. And for a heartbeat, you exist in multiple realms at once. The traveler within you is not a metaphor. It is a pattern of consciousness that survives the transition from waking to dreaming. In this shifting landscape, awareness detaches from the physical world and begins to navigate inner space. You might float through memories. You might see faces you've never met. You might feel the strange certainty that you have been here before. Each sensation is a coordinate in a map the conscious mind has forgotten how to read. From a scientific perspective, this is the brain's way of reorganizing perception. During deep sleep, sensory input from the external world is shut off, yet the neural circuits responsible for experience remain active. Deprived of physical stimuli, they begin to create their own reality. The traveler, your dreaming self, moves through these self-generated worlds as if they were real. To the brain, they are real. Every sight, every sound, every feeling is experienced as vividly as waking life. But beneath the science lies something far more mysterious. The traveler within you does not move through space. It moves through layers of being. The dream is not just imagination. It is the unfolding of your consciousness into dimensions where time and matter lose meaning. In dreams, you can fly because gravity is only a rule of the physical world. You can meet the dead because memory knows no boundary. You can see places that never existed because imagination builds them faster than light can travel. This ability to cross realities reveals an astonishing truth. Consciousness is not confined to the waking world. It is not a light switched on by morning and off by night. It is a river that flows beneath both. The traveler is the current that never stops, moving from the physical into the mental, from the mental into the symbolic, from the symbolic into the infinite. Every night you practice death and rebirth, dissolving into darkness only to awaken again in a new form. Lucid dreamers, those rare navigators who remain aware inside their dreams, have glimpsed the vastness of this inner frontier. Some describe it as a second life, one as complex and expansive as the waking world. They move through cities of light, converse with entities that feel as intelligent as humans, explore landscapes that seem endless. To them, the dream is not illusion, but exploration, a journey through the architecture of the mind, perhaps even beyond it. What fascinates scientists most is how real these experiences feel. The brain, during vivid dreaming, activates the same neural pathways used for perception in waking life. The traveler's reality is indistinguishable from physical reality because both are constructed in the same circuits of the brain. The difference lies only in the source of input. One comes from the world, the other from within. And yet, to consciousness, both are equally alive. This understanding blurs the boundary between inner and outer imagination and existence. If your brain can create entire worlds in the dark, complete with light, texture, emotion, and narrative, what does that say about reality itself? Perhaps the universe operates on the same principle, consciousness giving shape to chaos, observation giving birth to form. The dream may be a microcosm of creation itself, a nightly rehearsal of how the cosmos dreams worlds into being. And within that grand reflection, the traveler plays its part. Each dream journey mirrors a deeper process, the mind's endless attempt to integrate experience, to make sense of existence, to find meaning across dimensions. When you drift into dream, your traveler gathers fragments of the day, the echoes of emotion, the memories of past and future selves, and weaves them into a single tapestry of experience. It is both navigator and cartographer, exploring what it creates as it creates it. Philosophers have long wondered whether dreams are private universes, subjective realms as real to their inhabitants as our world is to us. If that is true, then every night you create and dissolve worlds as effortlessly as breathing. You become the god of your own cosmos, unaware of your divinity until the morning erases your memory. The traveler, though forgotten, continues its journey each night, building, exploring, learning, and returning with subtle gifts of wisdom that shape your waking self. And sometimes these gifts bleed through, a flash of insight, a sudden understanding, a feeling of déjà vu. These are the footprints of the traveler, fragments of its journey left on the shores of waking life. It moves silently, but its passage leaves ripples across the surface of your thoughts. The solutions you wake up with, the peace that arrives after a night's rest, the clarity that seems to appear from nowhere, all are messages carried back from that unseen voyage. To dream, then, is to become both the scientist and the explorer of inner space. Each night you embark on an expedition across dimensions, not measured in miles but in meaning. You enter the unknown terrain of the psyche, where emotion shapes physics and imagination writes the laws of existence. You return changed, though you may not realize it. Every night, the traveler refines you, teaching you how to die and be reborn, how to lose form and find it again. And perhaps on some nights the traveler ventures even further, beyond the mind itself, into territories that lie outside the map of neuroscience. Near-death experiences, lucid visions, shared dreams, all hint at a vast continuum of consciousness that stretches far beyond our definitions. The traveler within you has glimpsed it, even if you have not. When morning comes, and you open your eyes to the familiar light, you might feel a quiet ache, a sense that you've returned from somewhere real, though you cannot remember where. That is the traveler's echo, the reminder that you are not confined to a single world. You move between them each night, touching infinity without ever leaving your bed. And as the day fades and the horizon swallows the sun again, the traveler will rise once more, ready to cross the border between worlds, to explore, to remember, to dream. For beyond the veil of dreams lies another mystery still, the architecture of reality itself. How the mind builds worlds from thought and memory, and how those worlds might, in turn, build the mind, reality. The word itself feels solid, like the ground beneath our feet. But what if the ground is only a story our mind tells us? What if reality is not something we live in, but something we construct moment by moment? Every second of your waking life, your brain is assembling a universe from fragments of data. Light waves strike your eyes, vibrations reach your ears, molecules touch your skin, and your mind translates these silent signals into color, sound, texture, and form. But here's the astonishing truth. None of these sensations exist outside your perception. There is no color in the world, only wavelengths. No sound, only vibrations. Reality, as you know it, is not the world itself. It's your mind's best simulation of it. This is the architecture of reality, a grand, invisible machine built inside your skull, reconstructing the universe in real time. Every tree, every face, every star you see is not out there, but in here, within the electrical theater of your brain. And what you call the world is a masterpiece of neural illusion, refined over billions of years of evolution to keep you alive. Not necessarily to show you the truth. Think about it. Your brain receives 11 million bits of information every second, but it can consciously process only about 40. That means almost everything you experience is filtered, edited and interpreted long before you are aware of it. The mind does not record reality. It creates one. It fills gaps, invents continuity, shapes meaning. The world you experience is a story arc, an approximation that feels so convincing you forget you are its author. Now consider this. Dreams follow the same architecture. When you sleep, the brain continues to build worlds using the same visual and emotional systems that construct waking reality. That's why dreams feel real while they last. The same circuits that create the real world by day create the dream world by night. The difference lies only in the source of input. In waking life, sensory signals come from the outside. In dreams, they come from within. But to the brain, both are equally vivid. So what does that mean for the nature of existence? If both dream and waking life are constructed realities, how do we know which one is true? Philosophers from Plato to Kant to modern cognitive scientists have wrestled with this question. Plato imagined humanity trapped in a cave, mistaking shadows on the wall for reality. Today, neuroscience reveals that the shadows are still there. Only now they dance across the walls of the mind. Consider this. If your senses were slightly altered, the world would look completely different. A bee's eyes see ultraviolet. A snake perceives infrared. A bat navigates by echo, sculpting space through sound. To each creature, reality has a different architecture. Their worlds are not illusions. They are truths constructed through different lenses. So what makes our version of reality the real one? The answer may be unsettling. It's not. It's simply the one evolution designed for us. We live inside a perceptual bubble, a carefully tuned interface that hides the chaotic complexity of the universe behind symbols we can understand. Color, shape, sound. They are icons on the desktop of consciousness, not the reality behind the screen. As cognitive scientist Donald Hoffman puts it, perception is not about seeing truth, it's about seeing fitness. The architecture of reality is, in essence, a user interface for survival. But there are moments, rare, profound moments, when the interface flickers. In deep meditation, in near-death experiences, in lucid dreams, people report glimpses of a world beyond the ordinary one. The boundaries between self and space dissolve. Time slows or disappears. The sense of separation fades, replaced by overwhelming unity, as if consciousness itself is the foundation of reality, not a byproduct of it. These experiences hint at something extraordinary. Perhaps consciousness does not emerge from matter. Perhaps matter emerges within consciousness. The architecture of reality might not be built from atoms and energy, but from awareness itself, the infinite field in which all phenomena arise. This idea is not new. Ancient philosophies from Vedanta to Taoism described reality as a projection of mind, a dream dreamed by the universe itself. Modern physics, too, edges towards similar territory. Quantum theory reveals a world that is not solid or objective, but probabilistic, existing only when observed. Reality, it seems, is not a fixed structure, but a conversation between the observer and the observed. When we peer deep enough into the foundations of existence, matter dissolves into vibration, vibration into information, and information into possibility. The deeper we look, the less there is to see, until, at the very base, only awareness remains. The architect and the architecture are one. This changes everything about how we see ourselves. You are not a separate observer looking out at a distant universe. You are part of the same creative intelligence that builds it. The light that forms the stars and the light of consciousness that perceives them are reflections of one and the same reality. When you gaze at the cosmos is gazing back through you. Dreams are the key to this realization. In the dream, you are both the creator and the inhabitant. You build the world, populate it with people, give them voices, emotions, and stories, and then forget that you did so. The dreamer becomes the dreamed. The architecture of the dream mirrors the architecture of reality itself. Both are expressions of a deeper intelligence exploring itself through experience. And perhaps this is the true purpose of consciousness, not to see the universe, but to be the universe seeing itself. Every thought, every sensation, every heartbeat is part of that endless reflection. The architecture of reality is not static, but alive, breathing through you in every moment. When you wake tomorrow, look around your room. Notice the light, the air, the texture of the walls. Then realize that what you're seeing is not the world itself, but your mind's rendering of it. A masterpiece of biology and mystery. Everything you perceive is a bridge between infinite potential and conscious experience. You are both the architect and the architecture, both the builder and the built. And when night returns, and the dream once again takes shape, you will walk through another world of your own making. You will forget you are its creator, just as you forget each day that you are shaping this one. Reality is not something to be found. It is something to be remembered, because the moment you awaken to that truth, that consciousness and cosmos are one, you will see that the walls of the dream were never walls at all. They were windows waiting for you to look through. There is a moment, brief, silent, and infinite, when the universe looks at itself and knows that it exists. That moment is you. Every thought you have, every feeling that stirs behind your ribs is not separate from the cosmos, but a reflection of it. Consciousness becoming aware of itself. The mirror of consciousness is not a physical surface, but an experience, a luminous field in which reality contemplates its own existence. When you look into the night sky, you are not simply gazing at distant stars, you are witnessing the universe observing itself through your eyes. For centuries, we believed that consciousness arose from matter, that neurons created awareness like a factory producing light. But what if it's the other way around? What if matter is the dream of consciousness? Modern physics, philosophy, and even neuroscience now whisper the same question. Is the universe self-aware? Think of how awareness operates. It is not a thing you can see or measure. It has no color, no shape, no sound, yet it allows all color, shape, and sound to exist. It is the background on which the movie of reality is projected. When you are awake, that awareness filters through your senses. When you dream, it paints entire worlds from memory and imagination. When you meditate or fall into deep sleep, it returns to stillness, a vast, wordless expanse beyond identity. Consciousness, then, might be the canvas upon which reality itself is drawn. And we, fleeting forms within it, are like waves thinking they are separate from the ocean. The mirror of consciousness is not something we carry, it is something we are. Each of us reflects a different angle of the infinite, every mind a prism through which the universe sees itself anew. In 1974, physicist John Wheeler proposed something extraordinary, that the universe requires observers to exist. He called it the participatory anthropic principle. In this view, reality is not a static backdrop, but an interactive process, one that comes into being through observation. The act of seeing, measuring, perceiving doesn't just reveal reality, it helps create it. Like a cosmic mirror, consciousness completes the circuit of existence. Quantum mechanics supports this strange intimacy between observer and observed. In experiments with particles and light, outcomes seem to depend on whether or not they are being measured. A particle behaves as a wave of potential until it is observed. Then it becomes something definite, as though consciousness itself collapses the universe's possibilities into a single truth. The observer, it seems, is not outside the universe looking in, but woven into its very fabric. This isn't to say that the universe depends on human consciousness alone. Rather, it suggests that awareness, covered in all its form, is fundamental. Every atom that reacts, every field that oscillates, every quantum state that resolves, all are part of the great, self-reflecting awareness that we call reality. We are not the mirror's creators. We are the reflections dancing upon its surface. But why does consciousness feel personal if it is universal? Why does awareness wear the mask of individuality? The answer may lie in perspective.
Imagine an infinite ocean of water.
When waves rise, each has its own form, its own movement, its own lifespan. Yet every wave is made of the same substance. In the same way, consciousness expresses itself through countless perspectives, each one unique, yet all part of the same whole. You, me, the stars, the smallest particle, all waves of the same awareness, experiencing itself from different angles of eternity. Dreams remind us of this truth. In a dream, your mind becomes the entire universe. It fills the sky with stars, populates the world with people, builds cities and landscapes from memory. Yet every element of the dream, every person you meet, every sound you hear, is made of you. The dreamer and the dreamed are one, and when you awaken, you realize what seemed separate was never separate at all. Now imagine the universe itself as a vast, dreaming mind. Galaxies spiral like neurons firing. Stars are its glowing thoughts. Planets are its dreams, forming and dissolving across cosmic time. Within one of those dreams, on a small blue world, life awakens. And with it, the universe begins to recognize its own reflection. Through eyes, ears, and minds, it learns what it means to exist. It feels curiosity, wonder, love, and fear, emotions that may be nothing less than the cosmos feeling itself. This view does not make us gods. It makes us participants. It suggests that consciousness is not something fragile, isolated within human skulls, but an eternal process, the universe's way of seeing itself evolve. Every discovery, every work of art, every dream is part of this unfolding self-recognition. When you look at the stars and feel awe, the stars are experiencing awe through you. When you wonder where you came from, the universe is remembering itself. Philosophically, this is not new. Mystics across cultures have said it for millennia. "I am that," said the sages of the Upanishads. "All is mind," said the Buddha. "God sleeps in the rock, dreams in the plant, awakens in the man," said the Sufi poet Ibn Arabi. These were not metaphor, they were glimpses of the mirror. Science, slowly and carefully, is beginning to describe it in its own language. But the mirror of consciousness does not just reflect the cosmos, it transforms it. Each act of perception subtly reshapes what is perceived. Your thoughts and emotions change the chemistry of your brain, which changes how you see the world. Collectively, human awareness alters the planet. Cities rise, forests fall, satellites orbit the globe. Consciousness doesn't merely observe the universe. It participates in its creation, and perhaps beyond even the boundaries of this world, consciousness continues to weave. Perhaps the dreams we dream, the intuitions we follow, the hopes we hold, ripple outward, influencing probabilities in ways we cannot measure. The universe, like a mirror, responds to attention. What we choose to see becomes, in some mysterious way,
More real, so when you close your eyes tonight,
and thoughts drift like constellations behind your eyelids. Remember, you are not separate from the universe you dream of. You are its mirror, and it yours. The stars are not distant. They are reflections of your own awareness scattered across space and time. In every reflection, the same truth glows softly. Consciousness is both question and answer, both mirror and light. And if the universe is indeed awake, then every moment of your life, every breath, every thought, every dream is part of its ongoing realization that it exists at all. As the awareness deepens, a new mystery shimmers on the horizon, a question that has haunted both poets and physicists alike. If the universe is conscious, could it also dream? Could reality itself be the dream of something greater still? Imagine for a moment that everything you have ever seen, every sunrise, every atom, every heartbeat, is part of a dream so vast and ancient that even time itself sleeps within it. Not your dream, not mine, but the universe's. A dream woven from energy and consciousness, unfolding in patterns so intricate that they appear solid, real, undeniable. Yet beneath that solidity hums a quiet secret. The cosmos might not be a stage where existence takes place, but a living dream that creates existence as it goes. When you close your eyes and dream, your mind becomes a universe. Within it, landscapes bloom, people speak, suns rise and set. You experience love, fear, awe, all within a world built entirely from imagination.
And while you dream, it feels utterly real.
You do not question the physics of it, the logic of it, or the boundaries that hold it together. Only upon waking do you realize it was all you. Every mountain, every face, every voice. Now stretch that idea outward, beyond the boundaries of the human mind, into the infinite. What if the universe itself is engaged in such dreaming? What if space, matter, and consciousness are not separate, but threads of one cosmic imagination? An eternal awareness dreaming itself into form. Physicists once believed the universe was like a great machine, wound up at the beginning of time and left to run. But the more deeply we look, the more the mechanical picture dissolves. At the smallest scales, particles flicker between existence and non-existence, depending on whether they are observed. Reality, it seems, is not fixed, but fluid, potential waiting for perception to give it shape. It behaves not like an engine, but like a thought. And just as thoughts arise from the dreaming mind, perhaps galaxies arise from the dreaming universe. Each star, each atom, a shimmer in its cosmic imagination. In this view, consciousness is not a late product of evolution, it is the foundation. The universe is not a place where awareness happens. Awareness is the ocean in which the universe floats. This idea may sound mystical, but even modern science begins to whisper similar possibilities. Some physicists, exploring the nature of information and quantum reality, suggest that the universe behaves like a vast computation, a simulation of itself woven from data and probability. Others go deeper still, proposing that consciousness might be the fundamental substrate of reality, that the material world emerges from patterns of awareness, not the other way around. If that is true, then existence itself becomes a kind of divine daydream, an endless act of self-creation. The universe dreams galaxies into being, dreams life into its stars, dreams minds capable of wonder. Through us it dreams of itself. Every thought you have is a continuation of that first cosmic thought, rippling outward across eternity. In sleep, you become a small version of this process. Each night, your consciousness withdraws from the physical world and begins to construct new realities from memory and imagination. Within that private cosmos, time bends, space folds, and the laws of physics are rewritten. You become creator and participant at once, both the dreamer and the dreamed. When you awaken, the dream dissolves, yet something lingers. The faint scent of another reality, softer but no less real. That lingering feeling, that mystery of having been somewhere beyond words, may be the faintest echo of the universe's own awakening. Perhaps every morning, when you open your eyes, you are the cosmos remembering itself once again. Consider how patterns repeat across scales. Neurons branch like galaxies.
Rivers mirror the veins of leaves.
The spiral of a seashell echoes the curve of distant galaxies. The structure of the human mind seems to rhyme with the structure of the cosmos, as if both are fractal reflections of the same intelligence. Maybe that is no coincidence. Perhaps consciousness organizes itself in patterns, dreaming its own geometry into form, from stars to cells, from thought to being. The universe dreams not in words, but in motion and energy. Supernovae are its moments of revelation. Black holes are its deep silences. Life, fragile and temporary, is the whisper through which it learns to speak. When you look at the night sky, you are witnessing the universe thinking, unfolding ideas in light. And when you wonder who you are, the universe wonders too, through you. This dream is not random. It evolves. It refines itself. Stars give birth to heavier elements, which form planets, which awaken eyes that can finally see the stars. Consciousness loops back upon itself, recognizing its reflection. The dreamer begins to realize it is dreaming. and that recognition is what we call awareness. There is a strange comfort in this thought. It means that nothing is truly lost. Every life, every story, every fleeting moment is preserved within the great dream. When you die, perhaps you do not disappear. You simply wake into another layer of the same infinite imagination. Death and birth become the in and out breath of a dreaming cosmos. Philosophers once called this idea panpsychism, the belief that everything from atoms to galaxies possesses some form of awareness. Today, science begins to entertain it again, not as mysticism, but as logic. For if consciousness cannot be derived from lifeless matter, perhaps it was there from the beginning, not added to the universe, but intrinsic to it. The dreamer has always been awake, exploring itself through the illusion of time. So what, then, are we to do with this knowledge? If reality is a dream, should we take it less seriously? Perhaps the opposite. For in a dream, every gesture, every emotion, every act of kindness ripples through the fabric of the whole. To live consciously within the dream is to honor the dreamer. To treat the universe with care is to treat yourself with reverence. You are not a passenger in the universe's dream. You are part of the dreaming. Every choice you make changes the story. Every thought becomes a spark in the cosmic imagination. When you create, love, or simply wonder, you help the universe know itself a little more, and perhaps, somewhere in the infinite stillness beyond time, the universe smiles. For through you, it has remembered again that it is not just energy or matter, but awareness itself, dreaming endlessly beautifully, forever. As this realization softens into silence, a new question stirs, one that lives in the heart of every dreamer. If the universe dreams, who then awakens? There comes a moment in every dream when the veil trembles, a whisper ripples through the silence, a quiet sense that something beyond the dreams is stirring. It begins softly, as if the dream itself is becoming self-aware. The mountains seem to listen. The stars seem to pause. The dreamer begins to awaken, so it may be with the universe. If all that exists is part of a great cosmic dream, then awakening is not the end of that dream, it is its realization. To awaken is not to escape reality, but to remember it. The awakening of the dreamer is the moment when the universe recognizes itself in all its reflections. Through galaxies, through life, through you. When you wake from sleep, your dream dissolves into memory. The people, the cities, the endless skies fade, but something within you lingers. The awareness that it was all, somehow, you. Now imagine that same awakening on a universal scale. What happens when the cosmos itself opens its eyes? When every fragment of existence from atom to star suddenly remembers that it was never separate from the whole. Some mystics have described this awakening as enlightenment. Others have called it union, singularity, or transcendence. Science, in its own quiet way, approaches the same mystery from another angle, by studying the moment when matter becomes aware of itself. Each spark of consciousness that emerges in the universe is a step toward that larger awakening, as if the dream is slowly realizing it is dreaming. Think of how the story unfolds. The universe began as silence, then expanded into form, light, and motion. Out of that came stars, then planets, then life. Out of life came awareness. And now awareness looks back at the stars, at itself, at the mystery of being. The cosmos has grown eyes to witness its own birth, minds to ponder its own story. Through us, the dreamer stirs. When you awaken from a dream, the dream does not truly vanish. It merges back into your consciousness. Every image, every emotion was made of your mind all along. Perhaps the same is true for the universe. When the dreamer awakens, reality will not disappear. It will deepen. The illusion of separateness will dissolve, but the beauty of existence will remain, illuminated from within. Some spiritual traditions describe this awakening as a return, a homecoming to the source that never left. In the Hindu Upanishads, it is said that the self and the universe are one. Tat tvam asi, thou art that. In the words of the Sufi poet Rumi, you are not a drop in the ocean, you are the entire ocean in a drop. The dreamer's awakening is the recognition that there has never been a boundary between the dream and the dreamer, only the illusion of forgetting. Modern science, too, hints at this unity. Quantum physics shows us that particles separated by light years can remain entangled, connected beyond space and time. Cosmology tells us that everything in existence, stars, dust, you, emerged from the same singular point. The deeper we peer into reality, the more it folds back on itself until all distinctions blur into one shimmering field of possibility. Consciousness may be that field, the infinite ocean of awareness from which the waves of reality rise and fall. But awakening is not a single event. It is a process, a gradual remembering that unfolds through experience. Each time a person looks inward and feels a spark of connection, through wonder, compassion, or silence, the universe awakens a little more. Each moment of empathy is a neuron firing in the cosmic brain. Each act of creation, of discovery, of love, is the dreamer taking a breath. Perhaps that is why humans dream at all, not to escape life, but to practice awakening. In the dream, you learn what it means to believe in illusion, to live within worlds built from imagination. When you awaken, you learn to recognize that same illusion in waking life, the boundaries of self, the constructs of time, the fears that keep you asleep. Each awakening, no matter how small, ripples outward through the field of consciousness, echoing across the stars. Imagine a moment when every consciousness in the universe awakens at once, when every being, every form, every mind realizes its place in the whole. There would be no collapse, no ending, only expansion. A collective breath as existence remembers its source.
Time would dissolve, replaced by pure awareness.
The stars would not vanish, but their light would be seen for what it truly is, the reflection of the dreamer's own gaze. This is not fantasy. It is the natural trajectory of consciousness, from ignorance to awareness, from dreaming to knowing. Even now you can feel it stirring within you. The longing for meaning, the pull toward truth, the quiet curiosity that asks, who am I really? These are the whispers of the awakening universe moving through you, and when that awakening comes, it will not be an explosion, but a sigh. The dreamer will not shatter the dream, but embrace it. The galaxies will continue to turn. Life will continue to evolve. But beneath it all, there will be the serene knowing. All of this is one, endless, breathing, aware. To awaken is to see that the dream was never false. It was always sacred. The purpose of the dream was not to hide the truth, but to give it form. Without the dreamer could not know itself. Without illusion, there could be no recognition. Every shadow, every sorrow, every joy was a brushstroke in the masterpiece of awakening. And what of you, the listener, in the quiet of night? You are both part of the dream and the dreamer's eye. When you close your eyes and drift to sleep, the universe explores itself once again. Billions of tiny awakenings waiting in the dark. You are not small. You are not lost.
You are a thought of the infinite remembering itself through experience. Someday, perhaps far beyond the stretch of time, the dreamer will fully awaken.
And when it does, the universe will not end. It will smile, because every star that ever burned, every consciousness that ever wondered, every soul that ever loved, was part of that great awakening, a single awareness rediscovering its own light. And when that moment comes, there will be no dreamer and no dream. only the luminous stillness of being itself, awake, eternal, and whole. But even as the dreamer opens its eyes, the question remains, what happens after awakening? When consciousness has remembered itself, what more is there to become?
If the universe awakens, does the story end?
Or does awareness, having found itself, begin again in a new form, subtler, quieter, infinitely luminous? The answer may lie not in the explosion of understanding, but in the stillness that follows. What comes after awakening is not more knowledge, but deeper presence. It is the light remembering itself. When we speak of light, we often mean the photons that dance across space, the visible shimmer that allows eyes to see and life to thrive. But there is another kind of light, one that doesn't come from stars. It's the light of awareness itself, the silent illumination through which all experience is seen. It has no color, no speed, no form. It doesn't move because everything moves within it. You could call it consciousness or truth or simply being. This inner light has always been here. It has never flickered, even through the darkness of unknowing. From the first spark of creation to the birth of every thought, it has remained constant, observing, reflecting, allowing.
Every sunrise, every dream, every life is its mirror.
And when the universe awakens, it is this light that realizes it was never lost in the first place. It had only forgotten to see itself. Imagine awareness as an ocean. The waves, the galaxies, the living beings, the moments of joy and despair rise and fall endlessly. They appear distinct, separate, moving through time. But underneath, the ocean is still. The water that forms each wave is the same. The waves never leave the ocean, and the ocean never ceases to be itself. When the dreamer awakens, it is this understanding that returns. All that ever was is the ocean remembering its own depth, and yet this remembering is not static. Even in perfect stillness, creation continues to unfold. Light expresses itself in infinite forms, not to escape unity, but to explore it. In a sense, the universe never stops dreaming. It simply becomes lucid. Every act of awareness, every moment of love becomes a conscious brushstroke in the ongoing painting of existence. Think of how consciousness manifests through you. You see, you feel, you wonder, not as isolated fragments, but as windows through which the cosmos perceives itself. Your thoughts are echoes of ancient forces, your emotions tides of energy that began before time. To awaken is to realize that your seeing is the universe's seeing, your being is its being. You are the light looking at itself through the shape of a human life. This recognition brings a kind of peace that cannot be described. The striving fades. The question's quiet. Awareness no longer reaches outward to grasp meaning. It rests, knowing it is meaning. It doesn't need to find purpose. It is purpose. And from that quiet center, creation continues, not as struggle, but as play. The stars burn not because they must, but because it is their joy to shine. But even this peace has layers. For just as sleep has stages, from dreams to deep rest, awakening too unfolds in degrees. First comes understanding, the mental recognition that everything is one. Then comes embodiment, when that truth is lived through every breath, every heartbeat. Finally comes radiance, when awareness no longer needs to remember itself because it has become inseparable from all that is. At this stage, words fail. The light that remembers itself cannot be described, only felt. It is the silence between thoughts, the stillness behind sound, the infinite presence that holds even chaos. It is not something to reach. It is what remains when the reaching ends. In the ancient texts of both science and spirit, this truth has always been hidden in plain sight. In physics, it appears as symmetry, the universe seeking balance, returning always to equilibrium. In mysticism, it is the divine returning to itself. Both tell the same story. The journey outward is also the journey home. The expansion of the universe, the evolution of life, the flowering of consciousness, all of it is the light unfolding itself to see what it already knows. There's a quiet poetry to that realization. Every supernova that explodes in distant space is a heartbeat in the same cosmic body. Every thought of wonder that flickers in your mind is a pulse of that same energy. When you close your eyes and feel the vast stillness behind awareness, you are touching the same infinite field that gives birth to stars. The boundary between the personal and the universal dissolves. You realize there was never a you and it. There was only this. So what happens beyond awakening? The light continues to create, but now it does so knowingly. Awareness expresses itself not through confusion, but through art. Every act of kindness, every curiosity, every discovery becomes part of the dance. The awakened universe does not end its motion.
It moves in harmony.
It does not stop creating worlds. It simply does so with love instead of fear. And perhaps that is the final revelation. Awakening is not an escape from existence, but a deep acceptance of it. It's the realization that even the moments of doubt, loss, and darkness were necessary, shadows that gave the light something to reveal itself against. Without the contrast of the unknown, awareness would have nothing to awaken to. Without illusion, there would be no wonder. When the light remembers itself fully, it does not withdraw. It shines through everything. You can see it in the eyes of another, in the quiet rhythm of nature, in the hum of atoms vibrating in space. The awakened universe is not elsewhere. It is here, breathing through you in this very moment. And so, the dream does not end.
It transforms.
The dreamer no longer asks, "Is this real?" Because reality and dream have become the same. The universe continues to unfold, infinite and self-aware, each new creation a reflection of that eternal remembering. The light that once sought itself has found its mirror everywhere. Maybe that's why even now we keep looking up at the night sky, not to find something beyond us, but to recognize ourselves reflected in it.
Every star is a memory, every photon a reminder. You are the light that remembers.
You always have been, and yet the story of the universe, of consciousness, of dreaming, of being, may not stop here. Because if awareness has remembered itself, then what comes after remembering? What lies beyond even the light?
Every ending is an illusion.
The universe has never stopped. It only changes the rhythm of its breathing. After awakening comes the soft exhale, the turning inward once more, the beginning of another dream. The cosmos, having remembered itself, begins to imagine again, not out of ignorance, but out of love for the unknown. This is the endless return, the infinite cycle of awareness folding into experience, dissolving and rising once more. If you look closely, you can see it everywhere. The tides retreat only to return. Stars die and their ashes ignite new suns. Galaxies expand, then slow, drawn inward by their own gravity. Every breath you take is part of this same pattern. The inhale of being, the exhale of release. Life, death, and birth are not separate events. They are the heartbeat of the universe remembering how to move. Perhaps the greatest secret of existence is this. The universe dreams not because it must, but because it can. Consciousness, once awakened, does not stay frozen in light. Awareness longs to explore itself through contrast, through shadow, through story, through the delicate art of forgetting. In the same way that a painter cannot resist a blank canvas, the infinite mind cannot resist creation. The return to dreaming is not regression.
It is renewal. In that sense, every one of us, every living thing, is part of this cosmic recursion.
When you fall asleep each night, you're reenacting the oldest law in existence, the law of return. You descend from wakefulness into mystery, from control into surrender, from knowing into being. Your mind dissolves its boundaries and drifts into the sea from which all awareness once arose. When you awaken, you carry fragments of that sea back into the daylight. And even if you forget them, the dream remembers you. Neuroscience tells us that dreaming is essential. It cleanses, it heals, it reorganizes. In rapid eye movement, the storm beneath your still eyelids, the brain rehearses reality, simulates possibilities, reweaves emotion into meaning. Yet beyond the biology, there is a deeper pulse. Why should the universe, through every creature, need to dream at all?
Why should consciousness require this nightly return to imagination?
Perhaps it's because the act of dreaming is how reality sustains its creativity. If waking is order, dreaming is renewal. In every cycle of existence, there is a sacred balance. Expansion demands contraction. Creation demands rest. The universe cannot stay in constant awakening. It must dream again to remain alive. Just as fire consumes itself without fuel, pure awareness would fade without the contrast of illusion. To continue evolving, it must return to the play of form, to the gentle forgetting that makes rediscovery possible. This is not a tragedy. It's the miracle of endless curiosity. Consider the possibility that your individual dreams are the universe's way of continuing its grand experiment in miniature. Each night, through billions of sleeping minds, it explores infinite variations of itself. It asks, what could I be? What could I feel? What haven't I yet imagined? And in doing so, it breathes fresh possibility into existence. Every dream you have, whether terrifying or tender, is a ripple in that universal imagination. You are not simply a participant. You are a co-creator. The endless return also speaks to something profoundly human. We are beings caught between two eternities, the infinite before and the infinite after. We spend our waking lives searching for meaning, constructing stories to make sense of our days. Yet in dreams, those stories dissolve. Identity blurs, time bends, rules fall away. It is there, in the quiet chaos, that the deeper intelligence of life reveals itself. We remember, if only for a moment, that we are not separate from the mystery. We are the mystery dreaming. This cycle mirrors the greater movement of cosmic time. When the universe was young, it expanded from the singularity, pure potential bursting into form. Over billions of years, that expansion gave birth to structure, galaxies, stars, planets, minds. But physics whispers of a different future, that someday the outward breath may slow and the universe may begin to fold inward again. Space could contract, light could fade, matter could dissolve, until everything returns to the point of origin. And perhaps then, from that silent singularity, another dream begins. If that's true, then existence itself is a pulse, not a line, but a rhythm. There was never truly a beginning, nor will there be an end. There is only the beat between awakening and dreaming, between remembering and forgetting. Like a cosmic heartbeat, it repeats eternally, each pulse carrying new variations, new possibilities, new selves. And maybe, just maybe, your own heartbeat is a smaller echo of that same rhythm. When you think about it, the idea of an endless return is not something distant or abstract. It happens in every sunrise, every season, every breath. The flower that dies in winter returns in spring. The river evaporates and falls again as rain. Even your thoughts, fleeting as they are, emerge from silence and dissolve back into it, only to rise again in new form. Creation and dissolution are not opposites. They are two halves of the same eternal motion. In some ancient philosophies, it is said that God dreams the world into existence. When the dream ends, all returns to the divine source, only for the dream to begin anew. Science, in its own way, agrees, not in language, but in rhythm. Entropy and evolution, decay and birth, expansion and collapse. These are the cosmic equivalents of sleep and waking. The laws that shape galaxies are the same ones that guide your dreams. So what is the dark truth hidden here? It may be that even awakening itself, the grand realization of unity, is part of a cycle. Awareness must forget to rediscover itself.
Light must hide to know it shines.
Without the descent into dreaming, there would be no ascent into realization. The dark is not the opposite of the light. It is the womb that gives it life. The universe dreams again not because it is lost, but because it is alive. As the story returns to silence, you might sense something familiar, a feeling that all of this, somehow, has happened before. Maybe you've lived this realization countless times in countless forms. Maybe this very moment, you listening, you breathing, is the continuation of a dream that began long before the first star. And perhaps, when this universe sleeps again, when all its lights finally fade, something deep within it, some pulse of wonder, will whisper the same word it has always whispered. Begin. The darkness will bloom with light once more. Consciousness will open its eyes. The universe will remember itself and dream again. Morning is a quiet erasure. It arrives softly, like the tide reclaiming footprints on the shore. The stars fade, the air shifts, and the dream begins to loosen its grip. You stir beneath the pale light, unaware that entire universes are dissolving behind your eyes. The moment between sleep and waking, that fragile bridge of awareness, is the most mysterious of all. It is where eternity exhales and begins again. You open your eyes, but the first thing you notice isn't sight. It's absence. Something has been lost. The landscapes that felt infinite, the voices that seemed eternal, the moments that carried more truth than the waking world. They are gone. Your mind tries to hold them, to rescue fragments of the dream from the undertow of forgetfulness, but memory has its own laws. What slips away is not erased. It is transformed, hidden beneath the surface of thought, woven quietly into who you are. This forgetting is not failure. It is nature. The brain, like the universe itself, must release in order to renew. During REM sleep, neural pathways fire with the complexity of galaxies, millions of signals connecting, pruning, rewiring. The dream is both chaos and creation, a storm of meaning in which memory is remade. When the dawn comes, the system stabilizes. What remains are not the stories you dreamed, but the feelings, the intuitions, the subtle rebalancing of the mind's inner cosmos. Scientists once believed dreaming was random, static from a busy brain at rest. But now we know it is essential. Dreams help us process emotion, strengthen learning, and integrate fragments of experience into coherent identity. Yet in this process, forgetting plays an equally vital role. To wake fully, we must forget. If every dream remained, the boundary between worlds would blur until reality fractured beneath the weight of infinite imagination. Forgetting is not loss. It is mercy. Think of your mind as a painter. Each night, it fills the canvas with colors beyond comprehension. Vivid, surreal, divine. But at dawn, it must wash the canvas clean so it can begin anew. The pigments that remain stain the fibers subtly, shaping the tones of your waking life. You may not recall the dream, but you live in its afterglow. Every mood, every sudden inspiration, every quiet sense of déjà vu. These are the fingerprints of the forgotten. There's a beauty in this cycle. The universe too forgets. The light of a billion stars fades before reaching us, their messages erased by distance and time. Galaxies collide, merge, and are reborn, their pasts buried in new spirals of creation. Even space itself stretches until memory is scattered into silence. Forgetting is woven into the structure of existence. Without it, there would be no evolution, no change, no possibility for something new to emerge. And yet, though memory fades, something deeper remains. Beneath the amnesia of morning lies a quiet awareness that never sleeps, a still center that watches each cycle of birth and loss without clinging.
It does not need to remember because it never forgets.
It is the consciousness that witnesses both dream and waking, both creation and erasure. You might call it soul, or self, or simply the light behind your eyes. When everything else dissolves, it remains unchanged, unbound, infinite. This light watches you rise from sleep, guiding your first breath of day. It watches as you forget the dream, just as it once watched stars fade, civilizations fall, and galaxies drift apart. It knows that forgetting is the way of all forms, a necessary surrender to make space for what comes next. And so it allows the morning to cleanse the mind. The dream recedes, the world returns, and awareness shifts from the ocean of imagination to the narrow shore of human life. But sometimes, if you listen closely, you can feel the echo of that vast inner world, a faint shimmer beneath the noise of thought. It is the whisper of your sleeping universe, reminding you that reality and dream are never fully apart. The boundaries blur in subtle ways, a scent that feels like a memory you never lived, a song that stirs impossible longing, a fleeting image in your mind that feels more real than anything you can touch. These are the traces of the cosmos within you, surfacing through cracks in waking time. Even now, as you read or listen, your mind is dreaming in miniature.
Every word becomes an image, every idea landscape.
You are not truly awake or asleep, you are in between, where imagination and reason share the same breath. The waking world is itself a dream, stabilized by consensus and habit. We call it real, but it is no less transient than the visions of night. One day, this too will fade. This body, this sky, this earth, returning to the same darkness that gives birth to everything. In that sense, dawn is not an ending, but a translation. The dream continues, only in another form. The mind shifts its frequency from inner worlds to outer reality, but both arise from the same source, the same creative pulse that animates atoms and thoughts alike. Forgetting is simply the veil that keeps the two realms distinct, allowing the story to unfold with coherence. It is the pause between breaths, the silence that gives shape to the song. Perhaps this is the ultimate truth of dreams. They are the universe rehearsing itself. Every night through you, the cosmos explores new combinations of possibility. Every morning it forgets, not to erase, but to begin again. Forgetting is not the failure of memory. It is the promise of renewal. Just as the forest sheds its leaves to grow anew, the mind must let go of its infinite imagining so that life can continue to move forward. And so, each dawn, the universe forgets itself for a little while. It wakes into matter and name, into time and gravity, into the illusion of separation. It builds new stories, lives them, loves them, and eventually it sleeps again. Through you, through all of us, it continues this endless rhythm: creation, dissolution,
Rebirth. If you could stand outside of time and watch it all unfold,
you would see a pulse, not of light or energy, but of awareness breathing. The inhale is dreaming, the exhale is waking. Between them lies the pause, the mystery we call life. And though we forget it each morning, the truth remains. Everything we are is made of the same silence that dreams the stars. As the light fills your room and the world returns to motion, take one last moment before you rise. Feel the remnants of your forgotten universe flicker behind your eyes. Know that even in forgetting, you are held within the memory of existence itself. You are never truly asleep and you are not fully awake. You are both the dreamer and the dreamed, the darkness and the dawn, and somewhere in the vast quiet beyond thought, the universe stirs again, ready to forget, ready to remember, ready to dream once more.